Hey everybody, hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depends on where you're from. And welcome to Business and Wealth Club. And it's 10 p.m. Singapore Malaysian time. And I have Grant, Jane, Richard, Matt, Prashant. Thank you. And we are going to start in a moment. And this is Business and Wealth Club. So we have been talking about businesses for almost 1.5 months, if I'm not wrong. The last time we actually touched on the wealth topic, I even couldn't remember when. It was quite a while. So I said maybe let's talk about financial literacy and financial education tonight. So we just switched the topic a bit and talk about this very interesting thing. We have actually talked about some of this financial education topic primarily from our learning from Kiyosaki, Robert Kiyosaki, the authors of Rich Dad Poor Dad, a while ago. What I want to actually talk about is a bit more specific focus uh, to the entrepreneurs and business owners. So we will see how the conversation goes, and we'll be beginning in a moment. So if you have come to this room before, you know the drill. We would like you to invite your friends to come here, join the conversation. If you have any question, if you have any comments, depending on how we go, please feel free to press the button, and I'll bring you up. So in the meantime, let me make sure we have got everybody moderated first. You just give me a second. We'll be starting very, very shortly. There we go. Awesome. Okay, so we are done. So thank you once again, Business and Wealth Club. So please uh, enjoy the conversation. We'll be doing about 60 minutes. So why don't we start with our moderators introducing themselves? Grant here. So starting from Grant first, and we pass around. Thank you, Grant. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Jack, and thanks for inviting me onto the room. And my name is Grant. It's Grant Morrell. I'm an international speaker, coach, trainer, and international best-selling author. And over the last 19 years, myself and my team have helped thousands of individuals, entrepreneurs, organizations, and businesses across 15 countries, help them to increase their profits by up to 200%, often in just a few short months, by working on their team, their systems, their mindset, and their strategy, so that they can live life without limits. That's me, and over to you, Jane.
Hi, thanks, Grant, and everybody. My name is Jane Johnson, and I'm always so happy to be on these calls, especially today, financial literacy. Yay! Great topic, Jack. And I've been working with people, many years, started in 1983 in my clearing work, and that's what I still do. And I'm very grateful to have the chance to help other people. It's what makes me the most happy. So thanks again for having me here. Over to you, Richard.
Cheers, Jane, and great to be here as always. So my name's Richard Morgan. I'm a full-time entrepreneur, and I'm currently focusing on building multiple streams of passive income. So I'm really looking forward to today's conversation, and hopefully learning lots from everybody, and including you, Jack, definitely. So Mac, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard and Jack. Thank you for leading this call. My name is Mac Hatcham, and for the past 17 years, I've trained and coached entrepreneurs, thousands of entrepreneurs, in fact, in over 30 countries to grow their business and make more money. I'm the best-selling author of 4 books, including The Millionaire Moment and Face It and Fix It. It's a pleasure to be here talking about financial literacy and financial education. Great topic. Thank you, Jack. Over to you, Prashant.
Thank you, Mac, and thank you, Jack, for inviting me here. So, my name is Prashant Kumar. For the past 21 years, I've been a part of the hospitality industry, and I help independent hoteliers scale their business, boost profits, boost ratings, and build a better performing team. I am a #1 best-selling author of the book Check In with Every Check-In. And I'm really excited for today's topic. Wish I could have this education 10, 12 years back when I was earning, and I could have saved a lot. So let's start this topic. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Rashant, Mac, Richard, Jane, and Grant. Yep, Jack Wong. Tonight, I'm leading a conversation on the topic of financial literacy and financial education. My qualification is over the last 28 years helping thousands of multinational companies and high net worth individuals optimizing their tax positions legally, morally, and ethically, helping the decision makers to have more good night's sleep. So that is my profession. Am I qualified to talk about this topic? I'm not sure whether this is only pertaining to the accountants or the lawyers, simply because this topic is actually for everyone. So I'm glad that our moderators said they are excited about the topic. So maybe I just do the context setting and just want to let everyone know why this topic. Like I said, obviously we have been talking about sales, marketing, businesses for a couple of weeks. This is Business and Wealth Club. So when Matt asked me to lead the conversation tonight, I just want to change the gear. That's how I come up with financial education and financial literacy. And that actually started off with like how I came up with this topic, or why I decided this topic is just a recent conversation with someone in Malaysia, and that person actually told me it is kind of a good problem to start with. His company makes seven figures in Malaysia, and of course the tax season came in, and America, I know that 15th of April, Singapore we have 18th of April. Everyone talk about the filing of tax return. So he filed his tax return and he rang me up and said, Jack, I got a problem. I got seven-figure business here, but I have to pay six figures in terms of taxes, which I'm not totally prepared for. Then I asked myself, why are you not prepared for? I mean, I'm sure you should know something about your business, not just about the target audience, how to sell, how to make offer. These are all the things we have been talking about in the last few weeks. But how is the financial position of your business so that you know how much the business has to contribute to the tax authority? And I also wonder how many people actually are well versed or familiar with the numbers in their companies or in their business, which is the reason why I said, hey, maybe I should actually talk about this. I do understand this topic may not appeal to everyone because when it comes to numbers, legal environment, or taxation law, a lot of people want to avoid it. So I want to actually get into very generic discussion, but also to help the conversation goes, knowing that not everyone is equipped with the knowledge. I've also, in the last few hours, written a linking article which I posted on the chat already. I'm happy to share this article so that that would be the additional materials for those who are catching up with the recording. You know what? You can always use that article that I wrote as an additional resource. There are so many things we can talk about. Okay, so that's the context for tonight. Who amongst the moderators here can share with us why they're excited about the topic? Like how relevant
Well,
is the topic to you?
I
Matt, go
can
ahead.
jump in. I can
Go
jump
ahead.
in here. Now, one of the reason why I'm excited about this is obviously, I teach business, I teach entrepreneurism. And when it comes to business, one thing people don't realize is this. Some people, when I say, what's the language of business? And the language of business, most people think it's sales, it's money in the bank. No, but the language of business is numbers. And when you brought up this subject of financial literacy, financial education, it's all the numbers, 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 numbers. And if you're an entrepreneur or want to be entrepreneur, and you don't take the time to understand numbers, there is no way you can grow a business to any substantial size because it all depends on numbers. And so financial literacy is key for that. Not everyone would understand the heavy duty tax like you do, Jack. Not everyone will be able to read a balance sheet or profit and loss as well as you can. But on the basics, on the top lines, people, entrepreneurs, want to be entrepreneurs, must understand this. One reason why I'm excited is this. Once you understand business and entrepreneurism, the language is numbers. Take the time, study it, find out who can help you. When you go to raise finance, it's numbers. When you want to create, when you want to recruit new people into your team. You've got to understand your budget, your forecast, and everything else. So financial literacy is so key. I just wanted to throw that in before we get going. Thanks a lot, Jack.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you. I appreciate the keyword. The language of business is numbers. Write this down. Very important. Any other moderators have um, anything to share about why you're excited about financial literacy or financial education? Anyone?
Yeah, this is Jane. I'll say a few things. In my work, which I call clearing, there's a fundamental principle that at the bottom of every problem is one or more words that are not understood either at all or misunderstood or partially understood. So that's one of the basic principles of my work is if there's some kind of problem, and there's plenty of those in the world, um, we look for any words we might not understand or understand fully. And it's so easy to go by and pass by a word that not understood, to me anyway. Just interested in something, and yeah, that's a word. Well, I'll look that up later. I won't look it up at all, whatever. So back when I first started clearing in '83, that was one of the first things I was taught, as was Robert Kiyosaki, who worked with my clearing teacher at one time in the early '80s, actually. And it was really through Robert that I learned financial literacy. The whole idea was new that he was the guy who said, "Hey, this is what an asset is. It's not your house. It's something that puts money in your pocket," and things like that I just never thought of before. So he's sort of the father of financial literacy for me. And I learned so much from all his books and from him about just how to improve success by understanding. I mean, at the bottom of understanding is words. So now I'm saying the obvious. So I'm going to get off here and let somebody else talk, but that's what I wanted to share. Thanks.
Thank you. Grant, you have something to say, I guess?
Yeah, thank you, Jack. Yeah, I just wanted to say a very simple note on this subject is that it is a great subject. For the reason is that, as Mac pointed out, everyone thinks it's all about sales, it's about this, it's about that, which it is about those things, of course. But the unsung hero in all this is the financials. It is knowing those numbers, the basic numbers, and I think there is a natural reluctancy for many people to kind of shy away from them, not spend time on them, or perhaps not give them enough respect that they do to understand that there's so much money can be made and leveraged by understanding your numbers, which you do so well, Jack. And I think it's a great subject because I think it's the great subject that's very rarely approached. And if it is approached, it probably doesn't go into quite the right chunk for what people need. People either get scared off because they think you have to be an accountant to do it, or they just don't appreciate it as well as they really ought, or perhaps just don't focus or look at the numbers often enough. So I think it's a great subject, and that's just what I wanted to add. Over to you, Jack.
Thank you, Grant. And thank you, Jane. I think Jane has summed up very nicely with one thing which Grant also added, that is, instead of avoiding or not talking about this topic that looks or sounds scary, deal with it, find resources. Like what Jane said, it is to find somebody who is qualified, who has the experience to get mentorship. So Robert Kiyosaki obviously is the mentor, the common mentors amongst all of us. And at the same time, act in good faith, learn and learn and learn. Because even though I've been doing this stuff for so many years, I can tell you there's still so much to learn. The world is getting more and more complicated. So before I actually start talking about financial literacy, would Richard and Prashant want to chime in about why you're excited on this topic first? Then I'll move on to the next topic. Richard, go
Yeah,
ahead.
cool. So, obviously, financial literacy is so important. I think, as people have said, it's about tracking the numbers and really understanding how the business is performing. And if you don't track the numbers and you're not, if you haven't got a good financial literacy, then the business can go badly very quickly. And obviously, if you're not tracking numbers, you can't keep you might not be aware of things going wrong until it's too late. So by tracking the numbers, you can kind of do a very quick health check on what's going on. So I think that's what I want to input with that. So over to you, Prashant.
Yeah, thank you. So for me, it's like, you know how to put on the AC, but you are not closing the window and it's outside, it's a 50-degree temperature. What will happen? That AC will exhaust in some time and you will not have anything. Like you will not feel the cool temperature inside the room. That way it works like you keep working, you keep selling, you keep working like anything, and you will be bringing profits even in the company. But since it's not tracked, since it's not monitored, since it's not controlled, your money will always go away. And that actually happened with me around 10 to 12 years back. So I could not accumulate that much, in proportion to what I was earning that those days. So that's why I was mentioning that wish I could know this long time back, like 10, 12 years back. So that's why the financial literacy is much more required. Is required uh, more than even you the knowing about the sales, how to sell, as per me, because you bring the profit, but if you are not managing them, what is the use of bringing those profits? So this is what I wanted to share for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Rashan. Thank you, Richard. And now we get a consensus. The one thing in common amongst all the moderators here is that they are all excited about this topic. And of course, this is relevant. It's a relevant topic which most people wanted to avoid it because it's very scary to touch. Just like Cobra. When you see Cobra, what do? You want to run away, you don't want to face it. There's the same kind of fear that I guess a lot of people are having. So let me just start with what like Jane used to do in this case, that is to provide a definition of financial literacy. So once again, if you are listening to the recording, I've actually put across an article that I wrote 5 hours ago as a supplementary reading and additional resources for you to pick up in this topic tonight. So what I wrote in the article about the meaning of financial literacy, it is your ability to understand the financial concepts and make informed decision in business. So it's nothing to do with like immediately the concept of asset liability. It's just to first of all on broad framework understand the financial concept. Because as an entrepreneur or a business owner, you need to understand these financial concepts so that you know how to manage the finances of your business, which basically is the cash flow, and also understand the risk and the rewards associated with different business or investment options. It helps you create a plan financially so that you do not just have a surviving business, you can have a thriving business because you know how to manage your numbers. So that's what I like to do to define financial literacy. I'm not going to dive into Robert's teaching about the history of money, why rich don't work for money, etc., etc. I want to actually go a bit specific to the entrepreneurs and business owners side. That is, um, how do we understand these financial concepts? So obviously, the scariest part of the financial concepts is number one, sales does not equal to cash received. If you think that I've got $1 million sales, does it mean that you have $1 million cash in your bank? If you think it's the same, please do some research because this is not true. Because you can make sales on credit, and what if the sales or the purchasers, your clients, your customers decide to not pay you, then it becomes bad debt. Then what do you do? So this is a very important concept. Number two, not all assets are income producing. So in Robert Kiyosaki's world, when assets are assets, it is only because it brings in cash flow. So if you talk to the accountants, when they talk about assets in their own way, you may realize that they may sound logical, but you need to ask yourself, are these really assets based on the definition that this is the subject matter that brings in cash flow, positive cash flow to me? So this is a very important thing. And now, before I pass it to the moderator, I'm now going to ask them a question. The last thing to take note of is that your cash flow and your profit from your business. Just now I said that cash does not equate your cash received because cash can be sales can be on credit. How about this? You can be making profits in your business, but your bank account has negative cash. How about that? And worst thing is because you make profit in your business, the tax authorities in the country where you operate knock your door and say you've got to contribute because you make money in your business. You ask yourself, but I don't have cash in my account. Why on earth do I have to pay tax? So that is this is something you need to understand the differences between the taxation rules, the accounting rules, and what is actually happening in your bank account. So if you don't understand what I'm talking about, it takes years to master this, which is what I was. I've been doing accounting, tax, and law for over 28 years. So obviously, I do know what I'm talking about. I'm not here confusing people here because not everyone understands what I'm talking about. So just grab this few basic concepts first, and I will pass it to the moderators. When it comes to the question that I would like to ask the moderators is when it comes to businesses, why is it so hard for many business owners to grasp this basic financial concepts such as assets liability? And Matt, would you like to start
Yeah,
the
sure.
conversation
I think
first?
you hit the nail on the head very, very well, Jack. I mean, you are 28 years in that tax field, so you know financial literacy very, very well. And I'll come from a entrepreneur's background. Now, having been an entrepreneur for over 2 decades, and having been teaching other people entrepreneurship for 17 on my phone. One thing I realized that you could be in business. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Matt can, no
Okay, good.
problem.
All right, good. You could be in business because you maybe started your business, you are a professional, you've been trained as a whatever it is, a dentist or an architect or a baker or a carpenter, it doesn't matter. You've learned those skills, you know those skills well, but rarely do you get trained in financial literacy. Rarely do you get trained on how to read a cash flow statement, how to read a profit and loss statement, how to read a balance sheet. One thing I say to, and we did over the weekend, you know, Grant and I and Tom, we were doing some trainings for our entrepreneur clients. And one thing I made clear on day three was this: yes, you have to do marketing and sales, and it's important, it's imperative. You have to focus on that because that's what brings in income, that's what brings in revenue. The moment you are making, if you started a new business and the moment you're making money, the very second, the very first hire you should have, the first person you hire into your business should be a bookkeeper. Why? Unless you're a bookkeeper, trained bookkeeper, you know very well, it should be a bookkeeper. Because if the job of sales is to win the goals, if we come from a soccer, a football analogy, where the salesperson or the marketing scores the goals, the bookkeeper must save goals. Otherwise, we're scoring goals, but we're letting goals in. In other words, we're making money, but nobody knows where the money is going. Having a strong bookkeeper will actually save you a lot of money and actually point out to you where you may be going wrong, things are not going right, but there's different levels of financial support, different levels of financial help from your bookkeeper. Then eventually, you're statutory, you do have to have an accountant to do your end of year. If you want to be really wealthy, I will tell you this: if you want to be really, really super wealthy, you need people like Jack. Why? Because one of the biggest burdens, or one of the biggest sucks of your financial income is tax. And so the financial people you need on your team, that fail, bookkeeper, accountant, and a really great tax advisor, imperative. So if you don't know how to read the books well, one, learn. If you don't know how to read finances well, read it, understand it, get trained in it, because otherwise you may get cheated. Two, get great people on your team, experts on your team that will actually eventually save you money and make you money. Just wanted to throw that in there, Jack. Mac, I've done speaking for a moment.
Insightful, Mac. And of course, it is very important to hire the right people or to get help from qualified people, not your friends. Never ask advice from your friends who don't know what they're talking about. Kiyosaki talked about this many times. Not to ask your friends about what is assets, liabilities when they don't even know these concepts in their own businesses. So very important stuff. Anyone has any other things? Yeah, Matt, you want to say something? Or okay, no. If not, then anyone has any other comments, experience why business owners are so afraid of even touching the assets, liabilities, income, losses, other than the fact that schools do not teach us this. Anyone has anything to add on? If not, then I would need to clarify this. Sometimes whenever someone said the schools don't teach this, like I was reading a Facebook post last week. Well, it was the tax seasons in United States, so Jane can confirm that US, April 15. So the lady actually said on Facebook, how I wish that I could pick up tax law and understanding of tax rules in schools. I was quite
I
that.
have to laugh. Sorry, I have to laugh about
It's
that.
okay, it's okay. I was wondering, Jack actually learned this in school. And when people said that the financial literacy, the income, the income or income expense, asset liabilities, I would have to say this: some schools are actually teaching this. Like I was happy to have a conversation. I don't know whether I've shared this with you guys in this room. That my daughter, who is currently 16 years old, she is going for her O level exam this year. O level is actually the end of secondary school exam based on the British system, which Matt Grant and Richard should be very, very familiar with. So what happened was that her conversation and I were all about asset liabilities, income expenses, because she is currently taking a subject called Principles of Accounts, POA in short. And interestingly, I actually took POA in 1986. I picked up taxation law and rules in 1991. So I just want, as the host of this room, to help defend the rant about the school don't really teach it stuff. It depends on who went to which school. Some schools do, some schools don't. Maybe we talk about a business owner, a school dropout, who don't want to study, who do not like to study at all, and they say, hey, the school don't teach me any single damn thing. It's unfair to make that statement. So I just want to take this opportunity to rectify this misunderstanding somehow because it's not true. I'm so glad for myself that I pick up tax law, pick up accounting while I was in secondary school, in university, and I'm becoming a practitioner now. So this is a very powerful thing. But talking about what Matt said, the first hire is bookkeeper. You want to hire accountant. You want to hire a tax professional like myself. I'm a tax advisor, so to speak. The reason why is because another rules that Kiyosaki talk about is the rich pay less in taxes. And you may ask, how on earth does that happen? So I'll just share with all of you, in case you haven't heard of me talk about this before, a conversation that I had with Tom. Tom Wheelwright is the personal tax advisor, also rich dad advisor for Kiyosaki. I met him back in Singapore 2017. That was the time when Kiyosaki launched the book called Why Riches Get Richer. Okay, why the rich are getting richer. That is actually what we all love to say as a joke, is that if you have read Rich Dad Poor Dad, okay, this is the Rich Dad Poor Dad is the junior, is for elementary school. Why the rich are getting richer is actually the graduate school version of Rich Dad Poor Dad. So they launched the book in 2017 timeframe, and both of them came to Singapore and have the opportunity to speak to Tom about why the rich pay less in taxes. Simply put, one, business owners and investors do contribute to the country by ways of introducing job opportunity, employment opportunity, and investment opportunity. So in return, the tax authorities, as a result, give them a favorable tax rate, lower than what normally people pay for. As a result, this is why the rich pay less in taxes. On the other hand, the self-employed and the employees, technically from a tax perspective, they do not contribute anything to the country. You may ask, why not? Yeah, because they don't have any job opportunities offer, investment opportunity offer. So the only thing they can offer is tax payment. So this is what Tom has taught me, and Tom actually asked me to validate this from Singapore tax perspective and a few countries around Southeast Asia. And guess what happened based on my finding, which I subsequently told Tom? It is true. You can say that there's a global conspiracy theory about the tax system, which is favorable to business owners and investors, but it's not so much favorable to the employees and the self-employed. So it is good to know that running a business, there is actually tax advantage. However, the question you have to ask is, do you know how to take advantage of these tax rules? Do you have someone in your business who can help you to deal with that? That is what I feel like saying about taxation. Any moderators would like to add anything before I move on to the next point?
Yeah,
Anyone?
it's such a great point there. I learned the hard way, and many years ago, I was paying so much tax, and it was only until I changed accountant, who happened to meet in a networking organization, BNI, and he said, "Do you mind if I look at your accounts and see what you're doing?" And I showed it to him, and he shared some things with me. I thought, really? He said, "How?" So he analyzed exactly what was going on, and he showed me where I was paying too much tax. And so, guess what I did? I changed accountants, and I've changed accountants and tax advisors several times. As my wealth grows and as my businesses grow, the specialism I need actually differs, and so that specialism requires real real tax professionals, accounting professionals who actually know the system very very well and know real estate property and know other traditional businesses. And so that's on a side note. The other note is this: if you really want, one of the tricks is this: if you get bored by just looking at paper and you want to start understanding how income and expenses, the profit and loss, how does that affect the balance sheet in terms of the assets and liabilities? How does that affect cash flow? I highly recommend, if you haven't already done so, play the cash flow game. So Robert Kiyosaki's uh, board game called Cash Flow 101, great game. And I've been playing that game with my children. My youngest is 14 now, so he's been playing since the age of 4. Now my 14-year-old, since the age of 10, he could explain 9, 10. He could explain what assets are, what liabilities are, what income is, what expenses are, uh, what a cash flow is, why acquire assets, why essentially, as Jack said, why essentially acquire cash flowing assets. There's different assets you can acquire, but why cash flowing assets? And so they have that language, so you can learn and improve your literacy financially if you choose to. And I highly recommend the cash flow game if you want to see it from a gaming perspective, and then match it to reality in terms of what does that mean on plain paper when you get it from your accountant, or when you get your end of month statements, when you get your end of year statements. What does it all mean? So I just wanted to throw that in there, Jack, before you go on to your next subject. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. And it's very important, it's parents' duties to equip our next generations the language in business, or at least the language of financial literacy. But before we can do that, Matt says very nicely, we got to educate ourselves so that we are qualified to pass the knowledge to our next generation. Just like between myself and my daughter Zoe, we can speak with each other our accounting language because we have something in common. Thank you, Matt. Thank you for that. Any other moderators have anything to add on this before I move on to the next topic, next segment? Jane, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to mention the cash flow game too, and what I was thinking about when Mac was talking was what Robert charged for that game. I don't know what he's selling it for now, but I think it was $195, in US. So we have Monopoly and all these other games that I don't know, maybe cost $20, $30. I'm not sure, but I just loved it that he charged so much for it as a way to say, hey, this is how valuable this is. I don't know if this is on topic with what we're talking about, but he knew that he wasn't trying to make it so that some people couldn't afford it. It wasn't that. He was saying this is what it's worth. Of course, it's actually worth tons more than that. And I think he also wanted people to take that idea and see themselves and what they had to offer, their services and products, as being worth maybe more than they think, more than they're owning it. They didn't own the value of themselves and what they had to offer. So that's just my take on it. And yeah, just wanted to share that. Thanks.
Just wanted to, if it's okay with Jack, I just want to say, add to Jane's point. Jane, superb, amazing. One of the things that I learned from Robert, I learned many things, but one of them was exactly what you just said. This game is so valuable that this is the price. Essentially, when he wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad, the cash flow quadrant, when he designed the board game, it was for me one of the biggest branding coups in terms of the personal development, financial development, business development world. From a branding perspective, just look at the title, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And he said he wasn't, he said it's more powerfully, he said, it's better to to have a good brand that almost sells itself than trying to constantly market and market and market. So I don't know who was involved, but it was very cleverly done. Where Monopoly, like you said, selling for $20, $25, and this you can get it for about $100 now, about 190. Well, I paid about 195, $180 about 15, well, more than that, 17, 18 years ago for that now. So Jane, I love that. Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Matt, thank you, Jane. So I just want to hear whether I've got some poor connections warning on my side, so I'm not sure whether you guys can hear me.
Can hear you now. It's breaking up a little bit, but
Can you hear me? Okay, I know because I got poor connections warning from my side. I don't know why. Oh, yes, Grant, you want to say something? Okay, I
No,
just
no,
want
no,
to
it's
do a
fine, Jack. I was
yeah. Go ahead, Grant.
just confirming I can hear you, Jack, but I didn't
Okay,
have anything
good,
to
thank
say
you.
about it.
Yeah, so I want to also add on my take on the cash flow game, and then we will move on to the next topic. Like if you guys have any like people on the floor on the listening to this conversation, if you have anything you would like to participate or ask a question, make sure that you press the button so that we can bring up to participate in this conversation. Tonight is not a big room, and I can tell why, because this is the topic that a lot of people are afraid to participate. Is unlike other topics where we have double size of the room. That explains a lot to me. Anyway, let me just give you my experience on cash flow. Like I also pay about $200 for my cash flow. I went crazy because I don't only have the 101. I have the 202 version as well, which includes the options, which you can long and short the financial market. And that being said, it is very clear that I remember Blair talked about this, not so much from Robert. Blair talks about this. It is important to learn how to play the game, but it's not so much about learning only. It's to debrief the lesson. Like Blair specifically said, Robert did not want anyone to debrief the game unless they are well trained as good facilitators. So Blair actually said that you guys who have done master facilitator programs are much in a better position to do that because you guys know how to debrief properly. You don't want someone not to do debrief that defeats the purpose of the game. It's the lessons to learn, but more importantly, how to draw the lessons from the room so that people can instill and can rekindle the experience and learn from that mistakes, so that they can become better person next time when they play the game. So these are some of the comments I remember when Blair talked about the cash flow game. So that's the cash flow. Incidentally, I also mentioned in my article on LinkedIn, which is I've shared with you guys on the chat, that I said, well, you can actually read books, you can speak with qualified financial advisor, you can take a course on accounting or finance, or stay up to date with what's going on in the world. But guess what? Kiyosaki is a strong advocate of learning financial literacy using cash flow game. So I actually talk about cash flow game in my article too. So you just like we are all like-minded people. We speak the same lingo because we understand how powerful Kiyosaki's teaching is. So thank you for that. Does anyone on the floor have any things you want to ask or want to participate in the comment? Once again, remember you can press the button at the bottom and I will bring up to the stage to participate in the conversation. And don't be scared. We are not talking about Cobra, which can be fate can kill us. But what is important is this is a topic which every one of us should embrace, should embrace, should be willing to discuss and learn from each other. Okay, so this is where we are now. We're in Business Wealth Club. Tonight we want to talk about the financial literacy and financial education. Next point. Matt actually started talking about this, the interactions between the financial statements. So let me give you a head start first, what am I talking about? And I said this to some people before. Tom, again, is what Tom has taught me. So if you are running a business, you know that there's a requirement statutorily to prepare financial statements. Whether you like it or not, you have to prepare. Whether you have to file it with the authority, it is another question. In any case, you have to prepare. So when it comes to financial statements, there are actually a few types. The first one, which everybody by now should know, is the income statement, also known as the profit and loss statement, or in short, in accounting lingo, P&L. Okay, so this is one. Second one is the balance sheet, also known as statement of financial positions, based on the latest lingo in the accounting world. Statement of financial positions. This is basically to talk about how much is your business worth. In short, to layman, how much is your business worth? The last one is called cash flow statement. Cash flow statement is to measure the incoming cash flow and the outgoing cash flow in terms of your operation, your financing, and also your investing activities. There's the easiest and the simplest way for me to explain what a cash flow statement is, rather than I throw you 3 paragraphs of the proper definition. Now, what Tom has talked about is that if in your business you are only able to present an income statement or P&L account, what Tom says is you might be just an employee or a self-employed, because you don't really need to have the financial balance sheet. So in order to have a proper business, if you tell Tom what financial statements you prepare, you say I've got an income statement, I have to prepare balance sheet. That sounds like you have a business. But the key thing is that in order to have the business in Kiyosaki's definition, you got to have the income statement, your balance sheet, and your cash flow statements. If you have to prepare these 3 statements within the accounting period, then that is where Kiyosaki and Tom can tell whether you have a business or not, according to that definition. Okay. Now, why is that important, you may ask? And the reason why I bring this up is because in school, we learn one statement at one time. We don't really understand the interaction, how income statement interacts with the balance sheet, and how do I put cash flow statement in this between these 2 statements and make sense out of it. So just now, Matt talked about this, sound out the interactions between or amongst these statements. It is very important. Let's say when you make sales, this is an income to you and you reflect this in your income statement. But when you receive cash, what do you do with the cash? How would you record this in the financial statement? They will put under the balance sheet, and that becomes a cash flow. And when you have the cash flow, what do you do with the cash flow? Are you going to make a payment of expense, or are you invest in further assets? And that's where you have a cash flow statement to measure your income and outgoing cash flow. So it's very important for business owners or entrepreneurs to understand the interactions among these statements. And I would say that the cash flow game actually gives us a good head start of how to understand the basic concepts of income statement and balance sheets, because a part of the cash flow game, you've got to prepare these statements. Okay, if I remember correctly, we have to like take pen and paper to write down line by line, numbers by numbers of each and every transaction. So that is a very important piece. So talking about the interactions, talking about the assets, liabilities, and income expenses, do our moderators have any things to add? Nothing?
No, I
Okay,
think
then
you
I'll
summarized that,
summarize. Yeah,
you
okay, good.
summarized very well how it all fits together. So good job, good job, good job.
Thank you. This is because it's very easy for me to explain because in my head I can connect all this very easily. It's through years of mastery. That's why it's easy. But I'm not saying this to like brag myself or what. It is because it is one thing I want everybody to understand. It is like when you master a skill, when you first learn it, it's like riding a bicycle. You fall, you pick up yourself, and you ride again. You fall, and you do it repeatedly, so that one fine day you learn, oh my god, I can actually balance myself on the bicycle. And you start riding a few steps, and then you run into miles, keep many miles continuously for hours and hours. So this is a skill that everybody can pick up. I'm not a talented person. I just happen to learn this much earlier than many people. Jane, you have anything to add or comments?
Oh, I was just going to share a story about Robert from 1992. He was doing a program. I don't know if I've shared it before, but the program was called Creating Wealth, and it was a seminar. And one of the games we had to play was we were in teams at tables, maybe 5 or 6 people at a table, and each table got a pile of children's blocks. They were blue and green, made of wood. And the game was to demonstrate, I think, 4 or 5 words. I remember one of the words was credit. And you had to use the blocks to demonstrate the word, but you couldn't talk. So obviously, it was quite a process, a challenging one for those reasons and others, because you're trying to work with other people, and people are tired and irritated anyway, and after a long day. And here you are trying to demonstrate these words, communicate them, convey the meaning of the word credit, the word charge. I forget the others, maybe money, I'm not sure. This was 92, way before Rich Dad Poor Dad. But why were we doing this? He wanted us to really put our faces in it. What do those words mean? What do they really mean? And when you do understand the words that have to do with finance, it just makes a difference. It's all the difference to me. And yeah, he Robert loves to challenge people, and that was just a story I wanted to tell about. That's how important it is. And I remember in the old days, as I recall, his first mission that he wrote and expressed to people was to raise the financial literacy of people. And he's changed it later, but financial literacy, I think that term came from him. Maybe somebody else could verify that or comment on that.
Interesting sharing, Jane. Thank you for that. And it's 1992, many years ago. I don't have any background of the story, obviously, so I'm not sure whether I can comment on this. But thank you for sharing. And whether it's true or not, doesn't really matter to me right now, because the key is what did we learn from that? What did we learn from that? Well, I'll just put on the chat. Another thing. Oh, this is something that I learned a few years ago. I think to be exact, is 2016. Where we were in the room in Malaysia. So what happened was that the trainer actually introduced this game called the lemonade, lemonade game. So basically, the game is about how to make lemonade out of lemon. And you will ask, what is that going to do with financial literacy? How does it help me understand the financial concepts? So if you find that the cash flow game is a bit pricey, or you're not ready or in the position to pick up the game and learn, you want something that's easier to afford, I have put on the chat this book called The Accounting Game, Basic Accounting Fresh, or let me just say Basic Accounting. Let me just figure out the name properly. Is to learn the basic of financial concepts. So let me just say again, the accounting game is the basic accounting uh, fresh accounting game from lemonade, from the lemonade stand. So I will just type the title again properly, because I notice I've got a typo here. So this is an accounting game, which is a book plus the game, which is very, very affordable. And people can learn assets, liabilities, income, and expenses through the experience of how to sell lemon, how to make lemonade by lemon and sell it. So this was a game that I played in 2016. It's kind of very complex for me because I'm not a junior or beginner level. However, for people who don't understand anything of basic accounting concepts or financial concepts, this is a very good book for you to read to get started and even play the lemonade game. And in this book, there's actually a song. I can't remember. It's the Lemon Lemonade, and there's a song on that. I can't remember how to sing the song. So this is just to reiterate that you can learn by playing games. You can learn by singing a song. You can learn through activities. So that's what I can. What I have for all of you, especially those who are beginning the journey of financial literacy and understanding financial concept. Okay, so we are into 7 minutes to the top of the hour. And once again, if you have any questions, if you want to come up to the stage and share with us your comments, your insights, your reactions about what we have shared, by all means, press the button. I'll bring you up to the stage. Okay, and you notice that this room tonight is very small room. Again, like I said, it's because of the topic. It's very, very scary topic for people to touch. So I will just reiterate that if you're listening to the replays, which I know a lot of people actually listen to the replays, by the way, based on my count of the previous replays, feel free to participate in the conversation. Follow us, follow the moderators. We are all awesome moderators with different specialism, expertise, so that if we are doing any rooms anytime in Clubhouse, you'll be notified, you'll be here, you can participate. And this room, once once a week, Monday 3 p.m. UK, or in my time zone 10 p.m. Singapore, 6 a.m. for Jane in the morning. Um, uh, we do it once a week on Monday. We talk about business wealth topics. So follow us, give us a follow, go to the greenhouse on top and press the button to follow Business and Wealth Club. Okay? So we are 5 minutes to the top of the hour. Does any of our moderators have anything to contribute to this topic? Grant,
Hi,
over to
John.
you.
It's not so much a contribution as much as something which I think for people listening might be some good advice from yourself. I could preempt the answer, but I'd much rather hear it from you, from yourself. Is which point in someone's business should they start getting to grips with these things? I mean, over and above, when you mentioned some of the important documents, profit and loss, etc., people should get involved. At which point in the business do you feel they should get to look at that? And at which point should they then hire not just an accountant but a tax advisor?
Thank you. So at any point the ideal point is at any point when I'm about to start a business, not I've started a business, I'm about to start a business, I should actually get professionals involved because I want to understand my business model. I want to understand whether my model makes sense and how do I actually have my money coming in and what expenses does the business incur. So the ideal point is always when I am about to start a business. But most people would not do that. So the practical answer is as soon as you have started a business, before the reporting date, you've got to find someone to help. Here's one thing in this market. Let's say you have 1 month before the statutory reporting. 1 month. You may think 1 month is too much time. But to find someone who is qualified, who is a good fit, who has good chemistry, and you have to spend time explaining your business model, how your business works, is actually more than 1 month. So practically, as soon as you're ready, as soon as you start a business, you should actually find that person. Don't wait till the last month to do that. Okay, so that is about the for statutory purposes. As regards tax advisor, it's always good to have a tax advisor who knows the tax rules and law in the country where your business operates. The business dynamic is getting very complicated nowadays. I've just completed a 2-day goods and services tax class in Singapore last week. I've told the participants who are finance people, accounting people in their own company, and these are not individuals, they are working for multinational companies. I've told them the same thing. You've got to find tax advisors from the countries with which you have operation. Let's say you have business operations in country A, B, C. You need to find out the tax professionals in countries A, B, and C. This is one thing we say. You can, that although I practice international tax, no one on the planet would be able to advise and sign off any tax opinion for more than one country. Simply because I was born in Hong Kong, I know Hong Kong tax law very well, but my experience came from Singapore exclusively. I can sign off Singapore tax advice. I can't sign off any Hong Kong tax advice, even though I know the law. So, from a risk management perspective, I tell my client I have to find a Hong Kong tax advisor, which Matt will know Eric. Eric is actually my good friend who is also a very experienced tax advisor in Hong Kong, Eric Chen. So get Eric involved and get him sign off the advice and combine with mine, and we can present the advice to our client that includes Hong Kong and Singapore. That is just a very classic example. And of course, the next thing to talk about is depending on different countries, because there's something that's very blur or unclear between tax advisor who is a tax accountant and a tax advisor who is a tax lawyer. The US, like where James is from, they respect tax lawyer or they call tax attorney a lot. This is just the US culture. They respect the tax attorney. Whenever they have any tax problem, they go to tax attorney, not so much about the CPA. So that is the culture. The other part of the world, like you guys in Europe, tax accountants are pretty much respected. In our part of the world, it is kind of like in between. So therefore, the dynamics of the cultures of different parts of the world will lead you to find, okay, should I actually get a tax advisor who is an accountant or a tax advisor who is a lawyer? So I am a lawyer, I am an accountant, I'm a tax guy, so I'm actually in both places. So what happens is that on sometimes I can speak like the accountant in terms of the tax law, because tax, after all, part of the tax rules are accounting related. But most of the time, tax actually is law. So as a result, tax law, you want a lawyer to explain how the tax law works, which is what I do also. So it depends on what kind of tax advisor you're looking for. From different parts of the world, they have different cultures. So understand the culture. If you need further information, feel free to just DM me. I'm happy to explain all this stuff to you. Because in the interest of time, I know it's the top of the hour, Grant. Does that help? I'll give you to the best of my ability and answer in 5 minutes. Or have I lost anyone? Because again, it's the connection. I don't know.
Oh, that was great, actually, Jack. I think you gave a really good view of the whole thing there, and I shared a story the other week on Clubhouse, and I might be worth just quickly going over it again because it's a great story, and I think you would know exactly what was going on. That
Mm.
years ago, I was working in central London, terrible places if anyone knows it, and my company was there, and there was another company working there doing something similar to what I was doing, and and I got speaking to the guys. It was cold. I was outside, and I said, "Did you want to come in?" And we just got chatting. And I said, "Which company are you?" He said the name of the company. I knew the name of the company. It was I said, "Have you worked with them for long?" And the guy said, "Well," he said, "my father's the owner of the company. So I've worked with them for a long time." And I said, "Oh, really? Blah, blah. What's it like as a company?" He said, "Well," he said, "My father," he said, "he used to turn over about 600,000 a year." He said, and he absolutely adored the company. He loved it. He knew every nut and bolt of the company. He knew all the staff. He knew them all by name, and he really enjoyed going to work. And he did. And eventually, he said he was persuaded by some people to have management buy-in to expand the company, get many more clients. He said, and reluctantly, he kind of went along with it in the end. And he did. He went along. The company became much busier. He was pulled into many more high level meetings than he was before. There was more to consider, many, many more staff. After a while, he said, "I don't even know half the staff's name. I feel alienated in my own business. I don't enjoy going to the office anymore." And you know what? He said the company turns over much more money, but I end up with almost less money than I had when it was a smaller company. And that story always stuck in my mind. This is about 15 years ago, but it always stuck in my mind. And whenever I hear conversations such as this today, that always comes to mind that I best bet that guy didn't have a great tax advisor. What's your view on that, Jack?
Well, my view is not just about the tax law because I hear management buy-in. So in my mind, Kiyosaki's languaging is that where's my Gareth Sutton, who is the lawyer, who is my Tom Wright, the tax guy, and Tom is himself is a CPA. So basically, what I'm asking is like, where are my accounting, tax, and legal professionals? Where are they? And whenever I'm considering this kind of transaction, I'm actually looking into three areas, composite, not just about tax, because tax is actually a very small thing. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is right now in this climate, and I'm not here acting like a cobra to threatening people about this, but the fact is this, that every tax authority in the world is in need of money. This is undisputable fact. And every tax authority is doing whatever it can to extract money from you, whether you are in my country or not. Again, this is indisputable. So that sums up something called I, as a tax authority, would want to find ways to extract money. And the moment you say, "Hey, I'm in a transaction right now," and if you tell the tax authority the only reason why I'm doing this is to save tax, reduce my tax liability, you have no other reasons to furnish the tax authority, that is tax avoidance. Now you may then ask, what's the big deal about tax avoidance? Tax avoidance is not tax planning. 10 years ago, the two terms are the same. Right now, tax planning is good, legal, no issue. Tax avoidance, a lot of countries' tax law have built in the tax avoidance legislation, whereby if you are doing something that falls within tax avoidance, i.e., you do a transaction without legitimate business purpose, you are here just to wanting to save tax, you know what? The tax authority has the power to amend, vary, or adjust the transaction. In Singapore, starting from this year, the tax authority will impose a surcharge of 50% of the tax that it manages to collect. 50%, 50. And this is just an example in Southeast Asia about tax avoidance surcharge. It is a very big deal that people, when you run operations in multiple countries, familiarize with the tax law, what's the consequence when you are in tax avoidance situation. You don't want to end up paying tax bill to the authority and you scratch your head, why am I paying this? Because I have no Tom Wheelwright advising me. So I think this is a very good place for me to end. Anything else to add? It is 5 minutes past 11 already. I know I can rant taxation rule for many days because my passion is this. I can actually talk about tax law for one whole week non-stop. That's how passionate I am on this topic. But anyway, I know it's quite late for me. So I'll just once again thank you, our moderators. Before I end, is there any last word or final thoughts before I close the room tonight? Any moderators have any final thoughts? Last word before I close the room tonight.
I just want to say, Jack, thank you for the subject. I think it's a brilliant subject, and as I said at the beginning, a much appreciated subject and a very important one. And I think you've addressed it really, really well. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Okay,
I
so thank you.
echo, I echo Grant there. You're in your element there. Some great information shared. And if anyone needs to, if anyone listening needs to share this recording, share it because there's lots of golden nuggets shared by Jack and everyone else. Thanks, Jack.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so thank you,
I
everybody.
think Jane was
So
saying
once
something,
again,
right?
Oh,
oh,
just
Jing, yes, go
no.
ahead, Jing.
Just thank you, everybody. Thanks, Jack. Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mac.
Okay. Okay, so let's close the room tonight. Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Prashant. Thank you, Grant. And on the floor, thank you, Claire and Jyoti, for staying here throughout the hour. So once again, we'll meet again, Business and Wealth Club at 3 p.m. UK time next Monday, and the topic will be announced in advance. So with that, have a great week, everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy,
Just
and
like that. He didn't say that after he took the money.
be
All
awesome.
right.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers, Jack.
Thank you,
Bye.
Jack.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Good
Bye bye.
job.